Thank you very much for taking the time to join this session. I'm going to be talking a little bit about how SAP can be run on our Microsoft Azure platform and why we think that's the right choice for companies of all sizes using SAP to enable their digital transformation. Probably after these 2 days, you have already heard a lot about digital transformation journeys. For Microsoft, we focus on these 4 pillars, being able to better engage with your customers and understand their willingness to buy your products or services so that you can transform them accordingly, and at the same time optimize your operations, saving cost, and provide your employees with the right tools and leveraging their times to best invest in the innovation of your company. When it comes to SAP, which is paramount and centric to many companies of all sizes, the eruption of the cloud platforms and also the challenge imposed by SAP itself with this boundary of 2025, so that every company using SAP applications will have to migrate to HANA and S/4HANA by that time, is a full disruption and is making CIOs replanning their digital transformation strategy. And we think that the best choice for SAP applications and business applications in general is our Azure platform. Basically, there are 3 main reasons why we think Azure is the platform of choice for the SAP applications, and when it comes to HANA, much more of that. First of all, the infrastructure itself, the platform and the technical capabilities that I'm going to be talking about in the next few minutes, but also the partnership that we have with SAP itself. And then finally, the insights, innovation, and all the surrounding story, much more of the pure infrastructure components themselves that will help you achieve that digital transformation easier and also with more flexibility and quicker. So starting with the platform itself, we have the most scalable and performant platform when it comes to running SAP workloads, both traditional SAP applications running on NEDB and also HANA, which I will show you in a minute. Obviously, we cover all the different business scenarios that are typical in the SAP applications, starting from non-production environments, small POCs, development and test environments that you can benefit from the cloud platforms in the sense that you can turn them off when not using it and achieve those cost savings from the compute side of things. Covering disaster recovery that you can quickly spin up in the cloud and also stop paying when not using. It also allows you the capabilities of testing your business continuity procedures without disrupting your main production environment, which is a big advantage. Backup and archiving capabilities, and obviously all the production scenarios achieving those big cost savings. The typical TCO exercises that we have with our customers when it comes to full SAP landscapes, including production workloads, that typically run 24/7, obviously, is around 25–35% savings. We also have these extreme cases of 75% savings, which is typically due to very big landscapes with non-production workloads that you can turn off for the majority of times, or poor licensing combinations with Oracle, or very aging hardware that you can benefit from when going to on-demand provisioning. But over the TCO itself, which is obviously a big advantage, within the flexibility of our platform, is one of the main reasons why companies of all sizes are choosing Azure for SAP workloads. The speed of provisioning is very important when it comes to this type of applications. For example, if you have to develop a new project in SAP and you have to suddenly provision a full new track of development, QA, and pre-production environments, that's very typical in the SAP world. And it usually took like months of planning, sizing, preparation, ordering hardware, and installing applications. When you do this in Azure, one of our main aims is to automate as much as possible so that the manual intervention is reduced. As mentioned before, that will enable your employees and your teams to make the best use of their time for the innovation itself instead of manual tasks. You can just copy and create a template from your already existing landscape and deploy a new one in minutes. And that will also avoid lots of manual repetitive tasks and will eliminate the errors. You ensure that you have consistency and that the new landscape that you are deploying matches exactly the configuration of the already existing one. When it comes to archiving, you can benefit from the storage prices, which in the cloud platform and specifically in Azure is nowadays almost a commodity. So you can achieve those 60% savings, and you will also benefit from retention times that can reach up until 999 years. So you will be more than covering all legal and compliant aspects as well. One very important differentiation of our platform when it comes to Windows workloads, obviously, is you can have this hybrid benefit, meaning that if you already have licenses running on premises, traditional hosting solutions with Windows machines, you don't have to pay the license again to move those workloads to our Azure platform. We have already 54 regions available around the world, more than 150 data centers. We are heavily investing in these facilities. Microsoft spent more than $15 billion last year in building and operating our data centers. When it comes to HANA, which, like I mentioned, is the next big step for our SAP landscapes, we have a dual offering, a full virtual offering running on our Azure cloud platform, ranging from 128 gigabits of RAM up until 4 terabytes of RAM. And this is one of the big differentiators of the cloud platform. You can provision a virtual machine with 4 terabytes of RAM in about 12 to 15 minutes, which is obviously something that you cannot achieve with traditional physical machines or traditional hosting solutions. But whenever the virtualization hits a limit, and there are very big companies out there which requires much more memory for their HANA workloads, we also have a physical machines offering. It's purpose-built infrastructure, TDI certifications coming from SAP directly. And we can provision up until 24 terabytes of RAM in a single node, and you can also build a scale out for BW and analytics systems up until 60 terabytes of RAM. So as mentioned before, we aim to cover pretty much all the spectrum, companies of all sizes, and with this size of memory, there will be, I don't know, a couple of companies maybe in the world that we cannot provide a solution for. Coming back to the VMs, this is, as mentioned before, on-demand infrastructure that you can provision in minutes. That doesn't mean that it's not flexible. You can still benefit from the startup and shut down systems and stop paying for them. And it's also worth notice that we recently launched a new capability for this. We will be expanding the range of machines that we can offer in the virtual space with machines with 6 and up until 12 terabytes of memory, still virtual machines. And that's going to happen middle of this year, so around June, July timeframe. Another big advantage of our platform when it comes only to the pure infrastructure space is the availability. We are the only public cloud platform that provides you with a single instance SLA, which is what you see here in the left, which is 99.9 when you attach premium storage to one of our virtual machines. And then in the pure high availability setup, when you use 2 or more machines for the same purpose, you can benefit from the availability setup, 99.95, or availability zones, which gives you the additional protection against failures affecting one full data center. We will ensure that each of the 2 machines in the set are placed in different facilities within the same region, but in different data centers, so we can provide you with 99.99 SLA. And when it comes to disaster recovery, we still offer you the protection of data resident copies of your data in a geographically separate location. In the case of Western Europe, we usually go for Amsterdam, which is the West Europe region, paired with Dublin, which is the North Europe region, to build true business continuity and disaster recovery capabilities across regions. Over the pure infrastructure itself, where you will provision to host your SAP workloads, we will offer you a range of services and tools within the Microsoft Azure platform, not only to migrate and install and provision your new workloads, but also for the full governance, monitoring and management of those applications, and also to secure and protect your data. both on the physical space with encryption of data both at rest and also in transit, which by the way comes out of the box with Azure and is also free of charge. But also in the logical space, we are also the cloud provider with the highest number of security certifications and accreditations around the world. I mentioned before that Microsoft is spending more than $15 billion of dollars a year to build and operate our data centers, but we are also spending more than $1 billion in the security of those data centers and in getting and complying with these audits and certifications. So whether you have legal requirements when it comes to your industry or to your country, we are quite sure that we will be able to help you address those, and we have specialized teams specifically dedicated to that. We were also the first cloud provider to sign the agreement with the European Union for the new GDPR regulation. So that's also a big advantage of moving your SAP workloads to the cloud. We have these examples in the United States. For example, the healthcare industry there has pretty tough regulations. We already have a couple of customers that decided to migrate their SAP workloads to our data centers because it was much more easier, cheaper for them, and also quicker to move to Azure than to try and comply with those regulations in-house. Okay, so that's for the platform itself. Next building block of why we think Azure is the right platform for your SAP applications is our partnership with SAP. So you see here the timeline since the early 90s when Hasso Plattner and Bill Gates signed the first agreement. SAP is nothing new for Microsoft. We've been working together with them for more than 20 years, and we're actually very big SAP customers for more than 20 years now as well. We have a joint go-to-market strategy, and we have teams both for support and development working together in Waldorf in the SAP headquarters and also in Redmond in our headquarters. That's also a big advantage for our customers when it comes to incidents in business critical systems as the SAP are. If you have an incident and you raise a ticket with our Microsoft Azure support, if we think that is something related to the SAP software, we will hand over that ticket automatically to the team that is sitting next to us and the other way around. So it really made the support process straightforward. Much more, last year in the Sapphire event in May, we announced that we are fostering that partnership. We are going to migrate one of our most critical systems to the new S/4HANA application from SAP, and also SAP is going to use our Azure platform to host 17 of their internal SAP systems, and they are already using our platform for some of their software as a service offerings, such as SuccessFactors that probably you are familiar with. So as I mentioned before, we are obviously customers of each other. The SAP internal landscape that we run as Microsoft, that runs part of our business, is one of the biggest in the world. We are the 5th or the 6th biggest SAP customer. We completed the migration of our own internal landscape to the Azure platform in February last year. We migrated more than 660 machines, and we've moved one of the biggest databases, which was a SQL database, highly compressed at that time, more than 50 terabytes of data. So we are quite sure that it's a tried and tested platform suitable for companies of all sizes. And part of that next agreement with SAP, expanding our joint offering, now you can also run HEC on Azure, meaning the platform will still be our infrastructure with the capabilities that I already explained, and SAP themselves will be providing the services around governance, management, and up until the SAP basis layer and even the application management if that's what the customer wants to do. And furthermore, you are now also able to run SAP Cloud Platform in our Azure infrastructure, meaning you can use the same underlying capabilities for the development and the extensibility of all the new SAP and S/4HANA applications. That's already available in a couple of regions. Fortunately, Amsterdam is one of them, so it's pretty much already there for all our European customers. Okay, last but not least, because this is one of the most important features that we would like to highlight when it comes to digital transformation. One of the main advantages of running your SAP applications in our platform is the surrounding strategy. As I mentioned before, we are not only aiming to provide you with infrastructure as a service to run your SAP workloads, we also want you to make the most of the rest of our services and the specifically platform as a service offering that we have in Azure, so that you do not only run your SAP workloads and store your SAP data in our platform, but also you can apply intelligence to that data and you can benefit, for example, from things like machine learning, which was the previous session here. Power BI and analytics, we have standard connectors both for BW environments, traditional BW applications from SAP, but also for the HANA databases. We have connectors for IoT, and the purpose of all this is that you can benefit from all the digital transformation capabilities connected both to SAP, but also non-SAP data sources. Just to give you a couple of examples of this type of innovation, Azure is the only platform that allows you full single sign-on capabilities when it comes to SAP traditional applications, both on premises and running in Azure or in other platforms, whether they are private or public cloud, but also allows you to benefit from single sign-on to the rest of the ecosystem, both SAP and non-SAP applications, and specifically software as a service applications, like you can see there. SAP Business Objects, Workday, SuccessFactors, and many others, not only for your own internal employees, but also from your partners, which is undoubtedly one of the big advantages of Azure Active Directory. And another very recent innovation developed by Microsoft engineers themselves is the new ABAP SDK. This is an interface aiming to benefit from all the accumulated ABAP development experience that in the majority of cases resides with the SAP teams, both in companies and customers and in partners, so that you can abstract the infrastructure layer of the Microsoft Azure platform and develop those integrations and those extensions directly in ABAP language, which is already known for the majority of SAP customers. There are multiple examples of this type of capabilities already developed that you can find on GitHub and also in our Microsoft Azure webpage. And we are constantly enabling new capabilities, like I mentioned before, connectivity with logic apps, IoT, obviously the integration with the Office 365 suite of products is already out of the box there. And the last thing that I would like to mention, just to give you an overview, is that there are already many customers using Azure for their SAP workloads. We have already been working with them for more than 4 years now. This is just bulk of them, not all of them for sure. And I'm going to talk a little bit about two of the most famous one. To start with Daimler, which is a very well brand here in Europe. They decided to go for the Azure platform to deploy their new S/4HANA system and also to migrate their supplier relationship management system. They have achieved very big savings, like you can see here, more than 50% compared to their traditional hosting. But they are more willing to migrate the rest of their estate, which, as you can imagine, involve multiple SAP landscapes all around the world. So it's a very successful and very quick implementation, less than 2 months, which is obviously something that traditionally is very difficult to achieve with a traditional physical hosting model. Also, one of the very first customers to move SAP workloads to Azure was Rio Tinto, which is also a very famous mining company. Not only they reduced the TCO by more than 30%, which obviously makes them very happy, but they are already benefiting for the integration and the innovation, as I mentioned before, connectivity with IoT for many of their dispersed locations. They migrated more than the 24 SAP systems to our Azure platform with an heterogeneous migration, which is one of the most complex things to achieve. 35 terabytes of data, very big SAP production databases, heterogeneous migration that can be achieved also in a very limited period of time with small downtimes, and typically in a cutover weekend. And when it comes to partners, this is also something that we would like to highlight. We are partnering with the majority of SIs traditionally dedicated to SAP implementations. And one of them, Accenture, already migrated their own internal BW system to the Azure platform. They are running actually the biggest BW scale-out system in the world in our platform, which makes us very proud. And they are also benefiting from the agility and the speed of provisioning of Azure for their internal demo systems, which is obviously, as you can imagine, something that they use a lot. So that's pretty much it. As a summary, as mentioned before, you have all the benefits of the platform itself in terms of cost savings and agility. You can also now migrate to HANA, both with a partner or traditional SI, but also with SAP itself using HEC on Azure or SAP on Azure. And the most important thing, you can benefit from all the surrounding story with our past services and innovate in your company. All right, I will pause for a minute just to take some questions if there's any questions, otherwise.